Maybe from previous, no? Have a lot.
Good morning, members, and to the viewing public. Today, the chair will now call this budget hearing to order. This morning, we have before the Standing Committee of Ways and Means, the CNMI Public School System. So with that, we have 9 members present from the committee. We have duly established the necessary quorum to conduct our today's order of business. We move now to item 2, the adoption of today's agenda, and do I hear a motion? There is a motion to adopt today's agenda, and it has been seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Motion is adopted. Moving along on our order of business, we are now on item 3, public comments. And at this time, if there's any members of the public who wishes to make oral testimony, you may do so right now. The podium is open. Seeing that there is no members of the public to provide public comments, therefore public comments is now closed, and we move to our next order of business, introduction and statement of the chair. So at this time, the chair will now welcome you, Commissioner Camacho, and of course with your team and staff, and also Chairman CoDep Uludong, and I see also Member Macy here who is with us. Welcome to your chamber. We thank you for coming before this august body to have this open discussion with regards to your entity's request to the administration, and of course the administration's proposal that was submitted our way back in April 1st. So with that, let me just go ahead and recognize and introduce the members of this august body, starting by myself. I am Representative J.P. Sablon, Chair of the committee. To my left, we have Representative B.J. Atto, Vice Chair of the committee. We have also our floor leader, Representative Marisa Flores. To her left, we have Representative Julie Ogo. And to her left, we have Representative Vincent O'Don. To his left, we have Representative Roma Beneventi, also Chair of the Committee of Education. And to his left, we have Representative Angelo Camacho. And to the other side of the aisle, we have Representative Patrick San Nicolas. And to his left, we have Representative Dinita Yangtamay. And to my direct right, we have Representative Joel Camacho. Assisting our committee this morning is our bureau staff, starting with our legal counsel, Mr. Joe Tyrone, our budget analyst, Mr. T.G. Rabago, and we have also our legislative assistant, Mr. Nick Rebalman. We have our IT, Mr. Jonathan Diaz, and of course we also have our Sergeant-at-Arms, Mr. Pete Tuay. Also with us this morning to assist this committee and our budget hearing this morning are our Secretary of Finance, Mrs. Tracy Norita, and also Ms. V from the Office of OMB. So with that said, at this time, Commissioner Camacho, I give you now the floor for your opening statement and your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. If okay, I will defer the mic to my Chair of the Board of Education for a few minutes, and then I'll start my remarks. Over.
Please proceed. Thank you.
Buenos dias, Les Ormamuay. Good morning, Chairman Sablon, Vice Chair Atao, members of the committee. My name is Ashumar CoDep Ogumro Uludong. I serve on the CNMI State Board of Education, and I was invited yesterday by our commissioner to also offer a few remarks, and then last night I thought it would be beneficial for all of you if I could also just present a few slides for your information and to update you on what the State Board of Education has been up to these last 6 months. Actually, yesterday marks my 6-month anniversary. So lots has been happening at the board as well as PSS, and we're very glad to be here. Thank you for your time. So just jumping right into it, as you can see in front of you, I have a few slides just sharing some updates on what's been taking place since I took office as chairman of the board. When I came on board, we continued with our policy work. Some of those items include, regular ratification of various grant proposals that are submitted by the programs requiring the board's approval. We recently adopted an artificial intelligence responsible use plan. We've done the normal approval of the school lunch menu, certain breaks and holidays during the school year ending, school year starting, very standard policy items. We continue to oversee and collaborate with the Commissioner of Education, and through him, his key management, program directors, as well as principals. As I'm sure you probably all saw in the news, there was a whirlwind of activity around school promotion and graduations. And we continue to work closely together. A couple weeks ago, when was that, Commissioner? COE issued a directive on travel. That's been a hot button topic. And since I came on board as chairman and also as the final signatory of all travel authorizations coming out of PSS, I took that role very seriously, and through that process, and members of the management and other employees of the system are very well aware that I spent a lot of time reviewing TAs, denying TAs, questioning purpose of travel, and then also at the same time enhancing trips by recommending to the commissioner other suitable members of the system, whether in the schools or in central office, to join those trips as part of their capacity building and required for reporting and other areas. As I'm sure you're all aware, education, is cross-cutting, and I think my joining the board has also been a great experience as far as collaboration and partnership across not just the system, but our government and our community partners. As I indicated there, we also have been involved in many planning, health, environment, and other conversations. A big priority for myself through my role on the board has also been to empower our youth leaders. About a month after the election, I met with several members of the Youth Congress and assured them that one of my priorities during my term was to work very closely and partner with our youth leaders, not just within the Youth Congress, but also our student councils. And then just touching very briefly on principal rotation, which was another hot button issue. We met with Commissioner Camacho and took a look at his plan, and following conversations with him, he presented to the board a sort of plan B for a phased out rotation, and this is what came of that. And then for your information, and I'm sure these slides will be shared with you, these are the schools that were affected by that rotation. And I share that too because that was also something as an elected official like yourselves, constituents, shared a lot of feedback and insight from their respective schools. So this was a phase one that the board had endorsed and was very happy that we could at least begin this conscientious and considerate process. Next slide. Other updates have been very intentional and continued stakeholder engagement. I'm of the belief, especially as a member of this small island community, there's so many jobs and only very few of us to do them. So I'm also very committed to ways and opportunities that we can build capacity within the system. Another job of mine as a member of the Board of Education is to review current policy and make changes and amendments where needed and necessary. A few weeks ago, we attempted to hold a special board meeting, which, according to our legal counsel, we were able to hold despite the off-island participation of one of our board members, but we didn't muster the quorum necessary to proceed with the meeting. So that's also something that is top of mind. Right after that meeting, I did get a few messages and calls, including from our partners at the Guam Education Board, who also shared that since 2015, they also had already instituted a virtual attendance that counts towards quorum. And so I think the pandemic also really showed that there are ways to communicate and participate. And I think not just for the State Board of Education, but I think it's also useful for the rest of our autonomous boards and commissions to also consider this policy adaptation. Another area that I personally also received a lot of concerns around were this issue of renewal, employment contract renewals. So we took that issue up in the board and are right now addressing that to ensure that any employee of the system is given justification for their non-renewal. So that's a first step. A lot of times when employees aren't renewed, particularly at the schools, no reason is necessary. And we saw that that could be better. And so we're working on that. That's our first step. So right now, any non-renewals following our adoption of that motion will require justification from the immediate supervisor or whoever's signing off on the contract. And then as part of our update as well, I formed an ad hoc committee known as the Ad Hoc Committee on Constitution and Budget. And this committee will convene to be part of the conversation around the current work going on the budget, as well as to revisit previous conversations on the 25%. And interpreting that and working closely with partners, yourselves, partners from the administration to come together and get us all on the same page as to what we're looking at in terms of projected resources and how that filters down to what our expectation is as far as the 25% is concerned. Next slide. I was very excited. This is a photo of myself with our team, our delegation of student council presidents from not just our high schools, but our junior high schools. We attended UOG's annual conference on island sustainability. What was particularly special about this attendance were there were other visiting student teams from the other islands, as well as a dynamic group from the Kamehameha schools, a group of ninth graders who are leading sustainable development planning actions on behalf of the youth of Hawaii. So they're part of the SDG Youth Council of Hawaii. So we were very fortunate to have met those students and for our youth to interact, network, and get to know their peers from the region. These are a few photos from a STEM showcase that I worked with the commissioner and his team, particularly Director Laila Yumo, to bring together and highlight the talent of our community and the amazing STEM projects. We don't see too much of it, but I was so excited that we could highlight and showcase the talent across our system, not just in our public schools, but our private schools as well. These are two photos. The photo to the left is of a team that's Ms. Mai Peters, who just graduated from Saipan Southern. They were showcasing a Chamorro learning language app that they had designed. Very impressive. This app aims to teach the Chamorro language to our younger youth. And then on the right is just one of several robotics teams. It's really important, and I know, in the day-to-day, we can get bogged down with processes and just trying to get things done, but in the meantime, I think it's really important, too, that we uplift and highlight and recognize the talent that we have in our community. I believe 3 or 4 weeks ago, the CNMI hosted the Pacific Islands Environment Training Symposium, and through our partnership with the Northern Marianas College, we assembled student leaders from across the islands, including Rhoda and Tinian, to come together and spearhead conversations on the CNMI's Green Growth Initiative, and that's very tied to our long-term planning. And so I was very excited, and with our senior director, Dr. Liwag, and her team pulling together this group to contribute to those conversations. Our federal partners at the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency were also very impressed and pleased with that participation. The next few slides I wanted to share with you that kind of provide a little bit of a high-level insight into what's going on at the national level. And this was part of a presentation that I took part in Salt Lake City last week. I attended the National Association of State Boards of Education New Member Institute. And this particular slide presentation features a few slides from the legal advisors to NASB. To give some high-level overview on what was taking place at the national level. So they just basically shared that, it's not just the U.S. Department of Education, but a suite of various federal partners that are partnering closely with our schools across the nation to include HHS, Federal Communications Commission, Department of Justice, USDA, particularly with our school meals, and the Department of Labor around CTE work. You can look into these later, but I just wanted to highlight as well another slide that was shared as far as what's taking place across the nation around accessing preschool through grade 20 and workforce areas. This particular slide was also very informative around issues that are shaping congressional education policy discussions as they take place under the new Trump administration. And I wanted to share this for your information as it shows there's a closely divided Congress. So our policy partners in U.S. Ed are following very closely, how votes are cast around various bills. As you can see there's unprecedented executive branch activity around education policy. And then it just lists challenges ahead as far as what to expect at the state and territory level, particularly following the one big beautiful bill budget that was just passed. Some of the guidance that was shared with us is really our role at the state level is quite critical at this time. I know that Commissioner, our federal programs officer, Ms. Che, have been also in communication not only with ed partners, U.S. ed partners, but also with our delegate. Delegate King Hines has been a staunch advocate, and when she first took office, she was very proactive in ensuring that it was very clear to all of us that not only is she there to support, but to listen to what our needs are. So we're very grateful for that. And then just some advice from the presenter on how we can best impact federal policy. And this is where we really want to work to partner more closely with you, our policymakers, so that we're really all on the same page about what's taking place at the federal level and how it's filtering down to affect us. So as you all saw in the news, there was a hold that was placed on a specific pot of funding. And I wanted to clarify, and perhaps the commissioner will also reference it later in his presentation, but we're not the only one that was affected by this pause on the funding. This is across all states and territories. And I want to say, in the room that day, I was attending with various state board members. There was a bit of a hush in the room when, this slide was shared, because unlike us here in the CNMI, where the state board members are nonpartisan, overwhelmingly in the U.S. and across their state boards of education, they are partisan. And so there's always an effort to ensure that both Republican and Democratic voices are heard and given the opportunity at the state board level. So as you can see there, nearly $7 billion was withheld, and I think to our credit as well, 76% of that was released. And now, further awaiting guidance on the remaining 24%. So there was no cut. There's a difference between a cut and withholding of funds. So it's important to understand that. This other presentation was out of Kansas. Go ahead, Director. And around national trends, I wanted to share a few slides also for your information. And this is a graph that shows how average inflation per pupil has increased substantially over time. Next slide. And then just this slide shows the variation of per pupil expenditure. I think we need to run the numbers on our side, but as far as the federal spending level for the CNMI, it hovers around a little over $8,000. So I'm not sure if that's the totality and if that compares to these values, but it kind of just gives you an overall picture of what's being spent on each student per state. Okay, so 5,000 at the local level, so about 13,000. And then this slide I wanted to share as well, because as it states here, despite the higher spending, teacher salaries have stagnated and continue to be eroded with inflation. So I think this is also a very informative slide when it comes to what we're looking at locally and how that compares at the national level. 2 weeks ago, I was part of the CNMI delegation led by Lieutenant Governor Apatang to this year's Micronesian Islands Forum that took place in Majuro, Marshall Islands. This photo is actually of our heads of our jurisdictions together with youth that were invited from across the region. I'm particularly proud of this little gathering because going back to the Guam Sustainability Conference attendance, President Heine from the Marshall Islands, she keynoted that Guam event, and my colleague, her chief of staff, I mentioned to her following some conversations that we had about youth leadership, I recommended to her that perhaps they could consider having youth leaders from each of the islands as part of the conference. And she told me to put together a brief white paper on it. I put it together, shared it with her. President Heine really liked the idea. So in her invitation to all the presidents and governors, she also extended an invitation to youth leaders to attend. Unfortunately, Kiribati, the CNMI, and YAP weren't able to send, but this is a great first start. So my attendance really had to do with the Regional Education Committee, and the purpose of the committee to really foster collaboration across the region as it has to do with our respective education priorities and across the jurisdictions. And so this was just an overview that I'm sharing with you that you can review later. This was a list of findings of the committee that I think we can all agree are shared across the islands, from funding landscape changes to political landscape changes, funding instability for education across the islands at various levels, and then more particularly the last two bullet points, a shortage of culturally and linguistically relevant place-based learning materials and pedagogies for our CCLHS program. I know that Commissioner Camacho has made strides in enhancing our CCLHS program, but certainly bilingual education is a priority. Bilingual, and in some of the islands, multilingual education is a priority. Then the top two bullet points really are addressing workforce and the impacts of our workforce challenges, to also include out-migration of our people and their impacts to our schools and our ability to educate our students. And then finally, from the committee and our report to our leaders, these are our main recommendations. The first being the first annual Regional Education Summit for the region. I had proposed that CNMI could potentially host. I will bring it before our board to consider and see if that's something that we can move forward on. But the idea as well was looking at this fall's APIL General Assembly meeting that's going to be hosted by the CNMI. I have had conversations with the speaker about potentially aligning the dates if this is something too that the state board approves and moves forward with. But excitedly, there was a lot of support from our regional partners, including our friends from the Pacific Islands Development Bank, to co-sponsor this summit. So it comes at a critical time, and I think for us to host it together with our various partners would just be a boon and a great benefit to us. And this was actually the closing slide from our committee presentation, but I wanted to share it with you. President Dr. Hilda Heine is an educator by background. She had certainly prioritized education in this year's Micronesian Island Forum. That's a quote from her: "Investing in education is the best investment for our people and the country." And I want to share too that it also is fitting in a little full circle that I am now sitting here before you as a representative of the State Board of Education that was created by a constitutional amendment that was authored by the late Felicidado Gumaro. So I'm happy to be in this role and to serve our community and our children, our future, our now. And this was really to also provide you with an update and a more high-level overview. And now I'm going to turn it over to the Commissioner for the hard task. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Chairman Codep. Buenos dias and lesor, Chairman Sablan, and this esteemed body of the CNMI legislature. I want to start by thanking you for this opportunity to present our fiscal year 2026 public school system proposed budget. And I do so with optimism and cooperation as we plan for the upcoming fiscal year. I'd also like to report to this body that our students are thriving in our schools across the CNMI public school system. We have high-quality teachers with a curriculum that is also high quality, and this stems from a high standard that PSS and the Board of Education, through policy and implementation, have together instituted. Our proficiency and graduation ratings have risen to the point where almost 90% of our schools have met or exceeded the district goals. For example, our district goal was 58%, and students scored at 62 and 65 for math and reading, and early literacy at 71%. This means we had an increase of 17% in reading and 7% in math just this year compared to last year. We thank our educators and our students for their hard work and excellent performances, especially in the interventions provided to our at-risk students. Also worth mentioning is that our schools are equipped with a safe environment, and as we speak, 19 of our 20 schools have passed inspection and received their occupancy, fire, and sanitation permits. This means that by the time our teachers return on August 12th and prep to start lessons on August 19th, we should be ready to go. We thank our administrators and staff. This positive news and many more are, of course, the results of that your investment in our education, this body's investment in our education, have and continue to impact the CNMI's real treasure, its youth, and their development prepares them for a future they demand. So thank you for your investment in our kids' future. Yet, we begin this new fiscal year on October 2025, October 1st, and this date is significant because it marks the beginning of the post-ARPA period. And I highlight this because we know that external factors like the recent pandemic and the decline in tourism had a tremendous impact on our government's ability to generate revenue that it needed to pay for services. And what resulted in previous years, particularly the past 3 years and this year, is that federal ARPA funds assisted in reducing and mitigating the possible shortfalls to fund public education, which resulted in preventing the loss of learning, but instead, as I just mentioned, increased proficiency. As you've perhaps already heard, our AP passing rate just this morning was announced with a tremendous increase for this year compared to last year. This was a result of good investment of the ARPA dollars to establish a foundation for college and career readiness initiative. We thank the caretakers of our programs and those teachers who supported our college-ready students. We fully understand that PSS no longer has that federal ARPA funding cushion to help offset the gap. So we present our fiscal year 2026 budget that will be allocated to fund personnel with $42 million going to 942 FTEs comprised of school administrators, their admin staff, teachers, teacher aides, instructors, librarians, counselors, program managers, and state and district staffing to support 20 schools and 10 Head Start centers across 3 islands. We budgeted 7.2 for all others, which include operations at our schools as well as the local matching requirements for federal grants. I want to emphasize again that PSS operations have been stabilized by this ARPA funds in the past 20 years, 22, 23, and for the most part 25, due to local financial shortfalls. But this prevented the implementation of work hour reduction and possible furloughs, which would have also impacted our mandate to provide 180 instructional days by law. It is important to note that this fiscal year 26 budget is guided by targeted objectives. First, towards student learning, which is contingent on the continuous services and operation of personnel. And second, for obviously school operations. The personnel cost for the proposed 26 budget reflects a 3% increase compared to last fiscal year, which is due mainly to our projected expense related to certification and licensure adjustments for teachers, instructors, librarians, and counselors. It is also inclusive of the cost to fund additional Chamorro and Carolinian Language and Heritage Studies program to boost PSS's language and cultural preservation, a constitutional mandate. On instructional materials, 1 CMC 7838 mandates the earmarking of 1% of our PSS budget to be allocated exclusively to purchase instructional materials and not to be reprogrammed. Our capital improvement project fund then budget will need to address the school emergency repairs and keep schools compliant with building safety and fire codes, sanitation and occupancy requirements, and we budgeted $500,000 for that. On the day-to-day operations, we need the funds to ensure safety, health, and well-being of our largest stakeholders, which is critical and important. This is to procure supplies for the ongoing mandate to upkeep 20 school campuses. In our submission, we had also included fiscal scenarios, which we can unpack later on during this hearing. And not to go into the details, but those scenarios are provided to inform you of the various playbook options we would venture into based on appropriations. In closing, I want to state that this is going to be a difficult year for the public school system, but we continue to ensure every dollar we receive brings value and impact to our public school students. That is, we are always focused on programs that deliver the greatest impact to them. Your public school system is a large and complex organization. Thousands of activities are happening inside our classrooms and across every spectrum of our learning environment from Monday to Friday and even on weekends all year round. Although large and complex, we still find strategic ways to improve and advance the district by providing quality education despite budgetary constraints. And as a result, we continue to implement cost-cutting measures, such as savings of up to $1 million per year from the installation of our solar panels in 19 of our 20 school campuses. Adjusting our school calendar to still meet the 180 instructional days mandate, there's a lot of cost savings there. And then cutting our locally funded school operations by 50%, which was part of this scenario, as we also use a lot of our federal grants to enhance the learning environment of our students through innovative programs and initiatives, like the AP program that I mentioned earlier. As we speak, we continue to implement cost-cutting measures like suspending travel and bringing professional development to the CNMI as much as we can. And we continue to look for more ways to minimize cost, just not to the detriment of student learning. Again, thank you for this opportunity to collaborate on what the best course of action could be to proceed with, as we strive to maintain the provision of quality education to 9,000 students across 20 schools, 10 Head Start centers in 3 separate islands, being manned by over 1,000 employees who are locally and federally funded. Thank you for your investment in education and for your continued support to our children. With everything we do, students first and educators always.
Thank you, Commissioner Camacho and Chairman Kodep Ogumuro Uludong. Before we open up for questions and answers, let me first recognize some of the members who have just stepped in. Let me recognize Representative Ralph Yumo, and also we have Representative T.J. Manglonia, and we also have Leader Roy Adda, who all three has joined us this morning. So let me start with Commissioner. I know that your total proposed request is at the tune of 49 million. And just looking at your, and versus the governor's proposal, which is in the tune of 40 million. So apparently we see that there's a variance of close to 9 million versus your request and the governor's proposal. But just looking at your proposed budget for fiscal year 2026, we have a line item here that is debt service and contract. Can you elaborate what are the debt services and contracts that are in the tune of 722 that you are itemizing in your budget proposal?
Yes, Chair. I have our director here from Finance could get into the specifics of that.
Sure.
Good morning, everybody. Regarding the debt service and contracts, more than 50% of that amount goes to the license and maintenance for the Tyler Enterprise System. That's about almost 350,000. And then the second big item is the audit for the Ernst & Young. So that's about 150. And the rest of the amount are small contracts. We do have the IT consultant that helps us on Tyler, and our PR consultant that made up the 727,000 requests.
Are there any other professional services that you guys are acquiring using this line item proposed?
None, only two.
Only two? Okay. Thank you for that response. And just looking at your guys' proposal, also on your budget submittal, on page 21, you have your vacancy summaries, and that is in the tune of 74 FTEs. I know that we say this to all the departments that we have conducted public hearings, that although we recognize that they are asking for additional funding, also, we are also mindful and concerned as a committee that there are still vacancies within every department. And the question is to you guys is, how long are these vacancies been vacant, this position been vacant, and what are the efforts that you guys are taking to have these vacancies filled, right? So it's very important to make that understanding to this August body and make that clarity.
Yes, sir. For the length of how long the vacancies have been these positions have been vacant, I'll have Lucretia from our HR say that. But what we did decide to do just this for this fiscal year, coming into this fiscal year last year, we made the decision, deliberate decision to not open up any of the FTEs unless it's an FTE that had left and that we could fill. But not any more new FTEs were being opened up, just to kind of, remain at the budget that we had been appropriated last year to survive the remaining of this fiscal year. And that's really the plan also going into this next fiscal year. We asked for the budget, we're allocated for the budget, where we're going to do our best to continue to have what we currently have and not add to it, as we show that we're able to demonstrate at a high performance rating with or without those for now. But those remain important and critical, but we understand the budgetary constraints, and so we're working with the appropriations that we receive.
Thank you for that response. Go ahead. Sarge, can we assist the staff?
Good morning, Chairman Sablan and members of the Ways and Means Committee. So the 74 positions that were listed as vacant, and I echo Commissioner's response to you. In discussions with principals, and program leads, we looked at those vacancies to see what are those pressing needs needed. We also took a look at the student enrollment count at each of those schools to see if we're meeting the board-approved student-to-teacher ratios before filling those FTEs or having to replace those FTEs throughout the school year. But for the most part, this school year, we really buckled down and we are working on ways to see what we can do to either shift teachers where there's low student enrollment in different schools to other schools so that we don't have to replace that vacancy and just do the shift. So that's what we're working on in order to mitigate this and try to lessen the disruption by doing transfers to a different school that may need that additional teacher to assist the school.
Thank you for that response. So that leads me to my next question. I know that the presentation talks about 942 positions that are funded locally. But what is the number of positions or FTEs that are funded federally?
We,
Well, yeah, go ahead, please.
if I may,
Sure.
right now we currently have 304.
304. So this is additional FTs on top of the 942 that are funded under federal.
That is
Are
correct.
those the 304 FTEs or NOPs that you have, are all those filled, or some of them are vacant positions that are funded under federal?
Currently, we only have a few positions under Head Start program, the Child Nutrition program, and the Special Education program that we are looking at filling at the moment.
Okay, and how many in totality is this? Under
Maybe close to around 10 positions.
10, yeah. I think it's very important that we put emphasis, right? Because this is federal funds, and having this position filled means economic, development within our economy, right? And this is money that is not out of our central government, so I emphasize that you guys continue the efforts in trying to fill this as soon as possible. Thank you for that response, and which leads me to my next question. I know that, Commissioner, you mentioned that it is not your top priority to fill new FTs, but part of your package also talks about new FTs and the constitutional mandate that we fill CCLHS programs so that we can be on up to par with the mandate by Constitution. And that is, I can see that your proposal mentions 6 FTs for elementary, 12 for middle school, 7 for the high schools. So my question is, I know this is new FTs that you're requesting, but what are the number of FTs right now, currently, that are filled to comply with the mandate of the Constitution for this learning of Chamorro and Carolinian language as we speak right now, currently?
Yeah, Roger. Lucretia has the exact numbers on that, but you're absolutely right. We're freezing the opening of new FTEs for the positions across the board, except for CCLHS, because we know that had been, an area that was not neglected, but what we need to work on, continue to work on. So, Lucretia, with the numbers?
The current numbers of this program, how many employees there are under this?
The current numbers for the Chamorro content is 45. The current numbers for the Carolinian content is at 23.
20. Okay. First one?
For the Chamorro content, it's 45,
45.
and for the Carolinian content, it's 23.
So on top of this 45 for Chamorro and 23, we still need, Commissioner, the additional that you're requesting.
Yes, sir. We're short Carolinian instructors, and we're working hard to fill those schools with that.
So
type
the
of
new
instruction.
FTs that you're requesting are all to be dedicated to the Carolinian.
It's
aspect of
dedicated to the CCLHS, but we're working on what really is the need for each school, and the need really comes down to the Carolinian instructors that we
Okay.
need.
Thank you. So clarified. And so I will yield for now and allow other members to ask questions. Let me start by the vice to my left. Vice, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioner, and to your team. Thank you guys for joining us this morning. And first, we'd like to congratulate PSS and the AP program for your success this year as we get our students educated, and getting in AP courses and being able to match the national level. So congratulations to you guys for that. Just a continuation on the FTEs. Out of the 74 FTEs, how many of those positions are specifically federally funded?
On which FTE, sir?
The vacancy summary that you guys have?
On the vacancy, those are all just locally
All
funded.
locally funded? Are all the Army and JROTC programs locally funded?
Yes,
Or
that is our share from the local side for for those programs.
Okay, so the $100,000 salary is locally, the local shares 100,000?
If I may, Commissioner, in response to that, the JROTC instructors, we have what's called per military pay, and so 50% is 50% of the salary comes out of our local.
Okay, so 50,000 of the $100,000. Okay.
Correct.
And sorry, Chairman of the Board, you mentioned about statute changes that are potentially being discussed by the Board of Education. What specific statutes that are we looking at, and maybe something we can incorporate within this budget so it can assist PSS at least for the fiscal year while we work on a more standalone legislation?
Thank you, sir. I don't know that we have anything requiring statutory amendment at the moment, but certainly that requirement, as I mentioned earlier about quorum constitution, that's something too that we're going to be working also within the new ad hoc committee to revisit. But various policy issues that we're taking into account, but mainly around our employment contracts across the system, revisiting those, and we did pass a change in just the initial, as I mentioned, addressing of the employment contract challenge, and that was at this point now requiring justification. So that's not at the statutory level, but we do have a menu that we're putting together. But thank you for your question and the offer.
All right, thank you for that, Mr. Chairman. I know that we have a current statute that allows virtual participation within the Commonwealth. Is that something that PSS may need that we can include in the budget so it covers all boards and commissions within here in the CNMI that would allow virtual participation outside of the CNMI? Would that be something that PSS may need right now?
I think it would absolutely benefit our operations. I don't know, however, if that's something that we need to pass at the board level first, or if
We actually have a
it's
statute that's already in place that during the COVID period, we had a statute, but it only talks about the Commonwealth. But if it's something that we may need to address, we can at least put it in the budget while we make the amendments to the law itself.
I think, sir, if you can have your councils review that and
Sure.
pay particular attention to attendance and participation from without the Commonwealth, I believe that would benefit across our government agencies. Very much our ability to move forward with policymaking decisions. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mr. Chairman. And Chair, I yield my time for now, and we'll get back with more questions. Thank you again.
Yeah. Thank you, Vice. And just a couple of questions, Commissioner. I know that perhaps Chairman Codep on his presentation spoke about the 4.5 federal funds that is being held right now. I think it's important for this August body to hear on that hold, right? I know that perhaps there's more money with that source of funding, but right now 4.5 is being held right now by the Trump administration, and it's important for you to explain the impact of that hold, right? How is it impacted PSS moving forward? I know that it's a hold right now. It's not a loss, but I think it's important for you to expound more on that, if you will, please.
Yes, sir. On that 4.5, and really the overall hold across the Department of Education when it comes to that consolidated grant. And under consolidated grant, we have 13 programs that we are funding with, and those are mainly the after-school programs, the professional development, the college readiness, career readiness, professional development of our teachers, and really getting after the at-risk students who are underserved in the community, poverty areas, and those areas that we think we could concentrate a lot of that funding to. Unfortunately, we're the ones that were were part of that big hold. English learners, migrant students, students with disabilities, and family relying on adult and family literacy programs really kind of was the major national objective for that hold. And what we've done is we've looked across the board of all 13 programs and found ways to ensure that we still serve those areas. Just because it's a consolidated grant, we're allowed to do that. What that does to us, and it impacts us, is where we were relying on a lot of those funds to as I mentioned in my statement, to kind of not supplant, but to enhance the learning environment so that it relieves a lot of that pressure that we require or demand from the local side when it comes to funding. So that's really the bottom line on that hold and how it impacts us. Over.
And if you can, if you may also let the committee know that this hold or a pause is likely to be lifted perhaps maybe sometime this year, or what are we looking at? When would...
Yeah, the letter we received from the Department of Education, 2 weeks ago was that things were on hold. All of our $19 million request was on hold for that consolidated grant supporting 13 programs. The following Monday of that week, which was this Monday, we received note that we got awarded. So we were one of the few selected territories and states that were awarded. We went in and we discovered that we were short 4.5 out of the 19. So to the body, that's of course an impact. In the same letter, subsequent to those going after and realizing that we were awarded, it states that there are still being reviewed. Those lines that were scratched out to accumulate up to 4.5 were still being reviewed. So that is the hope and desire that we have. And in the next few months, we were informed that we could, receive some sort of decision to get it back, which is what we're hoping to be positive, at least for now.
Okay. And meaning get it back by hopefully by this year is what your entities hoping.
Right, as we all know, the environment is very uncertain. Things are fuzzy at the federal level, so we're taking the commands from the tower, which is the Department of Education right now, which, by the way, has also been streamlined and continues to be streamlined. So we'll see what happens.
All right. Thank you for that response. So let me shift back to the local appropriation. And I know you, on page 52 and 53, you have made your breakdowns, right? And I see that there is still, not all schools have been budgeted for professional services. So maybe I can, if I may ask my first question, what professional services are some of these schools are acquiring too. And it varies. Some are 1,000, some is 2,000, some is 3,000. So if you can explain to the body what are some of the schools are acquiring professional and the others are not.
Some schools are more ambitious in their way of providing events for their own purposes, and those things are tied to student learning. Some schools are good at making sure that and we're trying to kind of reorganize and make sure there's a lot of consistency in this. The school improvement plans, some administrators within those schools are very good at actually leveraging off more of the federal dollars than it is the local dollars. And so that's where we kind of see those. And some professional services could also come from cleaning services and all that, where the population could be more than what they need. What I've asked the school leaders as we discuss cost-cutting measures is to collaborate amongst each other, that in a cluster perhaps one contract instead of every school having contracts would be to serve all, more than just one school, and so that there's a little bit of savings there as well.
Yes, so I think there is a category already, Commissioner, for cleaning services. I know you mentioned earlier, just really earlier, that some of these professional services are cleaning services too. There is a category for cleaning services that are perhaps all schools are budgeted for.
Graduation events and all the other extracurricular events that happen in those school campuses.
Those
also
professional
are
services for
professionals.
that. Okay. And then, which leads me to my next question. I know based on your budget breakdown for these local funds, again, there are for security services, it varies. Some are at 30, some are at 36. And then not all schools are given that budget for security services. So perhaps the other schools that are not given security services, they're pretty much safe, and the others that are given, and then the variance though, maybe because some of these schools are bigger than the other smaller schools, right? That's why there's variance between the budgeted.
Yes, and to be honest, some of them are located in areas where there needs to be more security.
Right.
And then some are clustered up, like in Cagmang, we have the elementary, the high school, and the middle school together within the same area. So we're trying to kind of leverage off of, if there was one school that had that service, we could also have them extend over to the other closer nearby schools.
Okay.
Yeah,
so there are some schools that don't. I don't see in Rhoda and Tinian. Maybe perhaps they don't need that services, but for these schools that you've been budgeted, even currently this current budget, they are given that services, right? Okay.
yes.
Thank you for that clarification. Members, any others who have questions? Let me recognize Representative Marisa Flores.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, PSS. Again, I'm pretty much forced to raise my hand because I'm waiting for somebody else to ask a question before me. That way I can follow up, but I guess I'll just go ahead and start off. Okay, so we know that there is a hold on some federal funds, and there has, and this is the 24 million in which you were discussing about earlier. Is that correct, Commissioner?
Yeah, we requested 19. We are at the point where 4.5 of the 19 is on hold.
Okay, and let me go into this travel here because I don't see a travel here for your budget request because I'm assuming that those come out of certain divisions within the system. Is that right?
Every travel that any PSS employee undertakes is funded by federal funds.
Okay, and I know that there is a clear, distinct purpose for teachers directors that spearhead certain grants and divisions, especially that are focused with special education, because it has its own protections under the federal law. Now, I know that one of my comments in the 23rd fiscal year budget hearing was, or 23rd legislature, was this focus on travel, which I guess now you guys are trying to fix. But I will respectfully ask the board and the commissioner, directors that spearhead particular grants is very different from teachers. I believe, just as I would hope that the the director, board director, and chairman shares my sentiment that because of these relationships that have been built throughout the years with certain directors, like SPED, for example, and other federal programs that are being supported, that is very distinct. That is a very clear relationship between SPED and federal entities that are managing SPED funds that trickle down to us. So while I respect the effort on trying to fix, what did you use, deny, question, and enhance, there's certain managers and upper staff that should not even be in the deny, question, and enhance. Maybe the enhance, but question, definitely not. Deny, absolutely not. Because just as our former PSS director, who I worked very closely with, and she's not here anymore, God rest her soul, Suzanne Lizama worked very hard at building these relationships with federal counterparts. And to jeopardize that because of internal policies that should have been done prior to the entrance of our chairman and prior to the entrance of you, Commissioner, please take that into consideration, because that's very important. That's a very clear population that we have to serve, and we have to commit to federal guidelines, and that is very important to a lot of families here. And they work well and in close relation with Voc Rehab, CLI, and there are a lot of other entities in which they work with. So please consider making some changes, because when you say that, the chairman also gets to travel to build relationships within the Blue Continent that are tailored toward cultural identity, language, language arts, and what have you. And I can respect that, because we are closer to our own people within the Blue Continent that share the same responsibility and culture as we do. So I understand and I respect that, Chairman. Commissioner, I also believe that you need to be at certain hearings or what have you when you travel. But that doesn't mean that you just blanket over, because when you say no to one and you're sending somebody else to another for whatever purpose, I do believe that red tape does exist and bureaucratic activities are very much here and has not gone or disappeared just yet. So please consider that.
Yeah, if I may respond to that
Sure.
real quickly. So yes, you're absolutely right. There was a suspension of all travel, and then clear guidance follows that with, unless it's a grant-directed travel for those relationship building, zero TAs that are paid for by associations or organizations to allow our employees to travel. Those are going to pass. But at the moment, what we needed to do here in the last couple of weeks and into the new school year is to just hunker down and buckle up on this, large expenses on travel. And, travel really is a very valuable thing, too, for PSS, because we gain a lot of professional development from these travels. But at the same time, we're going to have to risk some of that in order to control and then figure out how to invite the professional development opportunities to our islands and instead have more. We're really getting into the train the trainer type mode and mentality here as we proceed with this area, that involves a lot of traveling opportunities, but at the same time could be opportunities for us to save.
I understand, but we can't have the Department of Education coming all the way to Saipan to speak with you and your directors. So those types, you know, and I hope that it's understood, because there's a very clear distinction, and I do believe leadership starts at the top. So if you're not going to make anyone travel, then no one should travel at all, period.
Right, so more clear guidance, and I'll share with you the clearer guidance as we proceed forth
Okay.
coming into school year.
Sure.
That's the reason why I said it's good to start announcing it now. The mentality changes, and then we have very good guidance and clear ways of doing in execution starting on the 19th of August. So we have time to really kind of look into this. So I'm glad that we're having this collaboration and discussion.
Okay.
But you're absolutely right. It's hard for people from Washington, D.C. to come. I did manage to get the chief of the state school officers to come and visit the islands, and that was very valuable. So when I saw that opportunity and that the value in that, I thought we could also do the same for many others. And believe it or not, a lot of my guys on the KM, the directors that you speak of, are really into this because they are already cultivating those relationships and hopefully would gain that opportunity. And SPED, for example, has done a tremendous job in bringing a lot of these professional development to our islands. Over.
Right, and I don't mean to hone in on just SPED because I know the director personally, but I'm talking about the system in itself, and I need to be very clear with that because I'm not going to. I don't like micromanaging. I really don't like it. I know it exists, so I would leave that to the system to design its policies and make sure that it's fair and it's equitable. But I believe in your system, and I believe that your policies will address that. So we were talking a little bit now. Let me reshift because we're at SPED. What is the maintenance of financial support that the CNMI must meet?
We have, where's our slide on the matching? Right here, we have our local matching requirements.
All right, so that's 1.7 million. We must match, correct? Must. There is no, let's just wait a while and see what happens. We must.
Yeah, no ifs, ands, or buts, or else
All
we
right.
lose the grant.
That's a must. We like to hear must because then it puts us. And then early Head Start local match. You are indicating here at 792,000, the 793 for easy math. That's another must, correct?
Yeah, for now, that's where it stands. It's going up to 853. We're asking for a waiver.
Okay, and when will you know about this waiver, approval for the waiver?
Right before the beginning of this next fiscal year. ma'am.
Okay, so right before. But in essence, we should, as this committee, be preparing to get, in the event that there is a denial, we must provide 700 or meet and match the 792,999. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay, and then the AmeriCorps, you know, there is the 50% local. Is that correct? Is that what Miss Lucretia mentioned earlier?
That was for the junior ROTC.
Okay. So on AmeriCorps, this is a must, a matching also, $144,681?
Correct.
Okay.
And, we just got notified that we got that award as well.
All right, but we have to match it.
We have to match it for this
Okay.
coming fiscal year.
And what's the impact in this? What does this serve?
Those are student volunteers that go down to students. Tutoring is a big deal for AmeriCorps, going down to the elementary level and we actually have data that speaks to the impact that those tutors are making to the students being tutored who are at risk, but also impacting the same, in a reciprocating fashion, those that are tutors in developing themselves. So
Okay.
we can share that with you at a later
Sure.
date.
And I think that's important because just as NMC has their, what do they call it? They have a tutor program within its own system. But if that is completely different from what they do as far as their goals and objectives, then I can understand that. But if it's similar, then that's another area where we can really design these MOUs and MOAs and kind of leverage and share funds, right? And have these students kind of go I don't know, I'm just trying to offer some kind of solution to help augment this shortage. But because these are a local match, they're a requirement, it is not optional, I need to address this. So the JROTC obligation is 810. PSS, there's a footnote here that says PSS receives 50% reimbursement, which is used for program operation. Can you dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, Arlene, go ahead.
Thank you for that question. So we do pay 800,000 per personnel cost, and we do get reimbursed 50% of that 800. Let's round it up to 400,000. We did have a law back in the years that this reimbursement goes to the operation of the JROTC program, meaning all the activities they do throughout the school year, including the competition. So that's where it gets spent on.
Wonderful, so it just supports itself in a
Yes.
sense. Okay. Commissioner, did you want to mention anything? Okay. All right, so on your personnel breakdown, this is all local funds.
That is correct. This is all local.
Okay, so the total personnel cost for all local is $33,411,990. Is that right?
No, you're only looking at the school's personnel cost.
Oh, it's just the school.
Yeah,
Okay.
the total is up to 42.
Okay. Now, so that's just the school. So if we don't even match this, then there's nobody, basically, in a sense, correct?
Correct.
All right. Just got to point that out here because then no one will be teaching. And we have students all over the place because they're not learning. All right. So if you take me to your personnel breakdown, central programs, this is where the 42,000 comes up, correct? On the screen?
That is correct.
And this is the 942 FTEs in which is supported by local funds. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. And I believe Representative Beneventi had introduced a legislation where the position would be that this body, and anyone can correct me if I'm wrong here, would define the net revenue, the net of the total budget, and that would be the 25% match. And so when you're looking at the total budget revenue that's proposed, that number is roughly about 31 million. So you would be short, sir.
Yeah, in your definition of net, yes, we will be short.
Well, even if we did gross, you still be short. The CNMI is short, everybody's short.
I'd like to know what really is the projected, so we know what percentage or what 25% means to us.
So here's my follow-up question to that. What has the system in relationship and guidance with the board, have they come out with a study, an impact that would be ready and available to the executive branch and to this body, what would happen in the event that none of the 25% will be met?
Sure, we can go to our slides on scenarios, which I mentioned earlier during my opening remarks. And the scenarios are designed. We've looked at this. We've shared it with central government, and we've shared it with you all when we submitted our budget a few weeks ago, that this is really what's going to happen. Now, we did include scenario number 5 there that you did not see when we submitted the budget. But if that's the worst case scenario, if only 33, then we would have to merge schools. We would have to go down to 147 instructional days instead of the 180, which is by law you demand of PSS to execute. And we would have to let go of a lot of course, our FTEs, and it would start from, the central office down to the teachers, the vice principals, as we merge schools.
All right, and so are any of your federal grants, would they be affected as well? Because if the local calendar states 180 days, I'm pretty sure that the federal government has a standard in which there should be public school education calendar days.
Right, so we would alarm our federal partners of the impact on the local side and the new calendar that we would have to adjust We've created a calendar, and the board approved the calendar to proceed with 180-day, knowing that we could get close to that by virtue of just calculating what 25% could mean for us. And that's what we proceeded with. If things change as it becomes law coming into the new fiscal year, and starting now, we're creating scenarios and we're prepping ourselves to hunker down if that would be the case. But we present this so that this body and the community knows that this will be the impact on education
Right.
and the investment to education as a priority.
Absolutely, and I agree, because while we have a responsibility to the retirement, which is 25%, a responsibility to PSS, which is 25%, that's 50% of the entire budget, right? Which leaves us with pennies to deal and give out. So in that scenario then, so the federal government will be alarmed, the calendar will be shortened, students will be impacted.
An emergency will be declared.
Okay.
Because ma'am, I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt, but because we are by law required to have 180 days. The moment we
Yes.
go below that, even by 1 day, we would have to inform you to declare a state of emergency.
Would any federal grant funds be jeopardized? Sliced in half, total removal?
I'll let the federal programs office respond to that.
It will be, could you hear me? It will be jeopardized, but not totally eliminated.
Okay. Do you know how much will you lose?
I think it'll reflect what we would be reporting to them. Right now, we can't report to them other than to know that there is some economic conditions here that we're afraid could impact them.
But internally, you would already have that impact statement available to them, and you would know how much in federal cuts that each federal department, or at least grants that are being supported for salary and curriculum teaching, you'll know that already.
Right, and we're still refining our numbers on that, but just
Okay.
know, 20 schools, if 20 schools are not in operation coming this new school year, 20 schools, we have federal funds to outfit 20 schools.
All right.
When it reduces the impact,
Okay.
or it'll increase the impact.
Well, that's not good news. I don't think it's going to be good news to any of the parents. Definitely not good news to us here. But we'll wait on those reports, or if any financial impact would be needed. And obviously, the scenarios here are presented. You added a scenario 5 that would really impact and affect student learning. So none of the scenarios are good at this point. And let me just keep moving along, because I'm trying to figure out ways where we can leverage money from other areas. So you mentioned that there's, I support student activity, extracurricular activities. Does the system internally have a mechanism that identifies co-curricular and extracurricular activities?
Yes, but I also want to add that co-curricular and extracurricular activities are funded federally for the most part. Because as I mentioned in my statement, personnel is where a lot of the local funding goes to, matching those grants that come in to enhance the learning. The enhancements of the learning come from those extracurricular activities and co-curricular activities.
Okay, so how much in extra and co-curricular activities are funded by federal government? Total number, just give me a number.
Really, if you look at the consolidated grant that we applied for, that's really it right there.
Sir, and thank you, Commissioner, but what is that total number?
19 million
Thank
is
you.
what we asked for. We
All
got
right.
4.5 less.
So when we know that schools do fundraising events to support student activities. So when you're talking about off-island students, let's say going out to do, what do they call this? The co-op trips, or these trips to DC. That is funded by federal funds?
Yes, that is funded under the consolidated grant.
All of
All
it?
national competitions are funded by the consolidated grant.
Okay. And you're down to 4 million.
Yeah.
Okay. So the schools, when they do their fundraising, that stays in the school? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
And what do those support?
Yeah, that, usually we leave it up to the PTSA to decide what they want to use that for. They could buy signs, they could have stages being built or enhanced, and some other areas on the school campus.
But you do have a mechanism that actually accounts for each of these activities as the money is being supported, correct?
Absolutely,
Thank
yes.
you. So let's go and shift over to the CCLHS program, because this has been a hot topic since the 23rd legislature. And I know that your chairman is very passionate about indigenous rights and advocacy, as we all are here. I know that DCCA gets a lot of funding, lots of funding. And I know that this body has also been giving a lot of nonprofit organizations whose mission is towards native language, native teaching, indigenous teaching, what have you. Do you have any existing MOUs with any of the nonprofits that share the same mission in terms of education specific to indigenous teachings?
Yeah, I'd like to say that since my arrival, we've started collaborating more and more with a lot of these agencies, but there's no official memorandum of agreement or understanding that I know of.
Okay, because a lot of these nonprofits can really not only help you guys, but I mean, I think that PSS should be the supervisor of all of the nonprofits that are tailored, that are actually, whose mission is providing education in terms of indigenous teaching and content knowledge of history that is tailored toward indigenous teaching. Because there has been a lot of money that's been given out of here that tailored to that. But just like the child care or the homeschooling license, they have to get the license from PSS, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So that model, if we could somehow figure out that model with the nonprofit, right? Then we can leverage and augment more funds, because they're taking your data, applying for federal grants, and not even sharing that with the main system whose one main purpose is to provide education to students. That also has a program that can actually help you guys, but you guys will decide what the standard is of those types of nonprofits, because you can't just be giving out money with no return on investment, especially when it's tailored toward indigenous teachings.
Yes, ma'am, and we could attribute our increase in the learning of the indigenous language and heritage through those type of initiatives. You're absolutely right. But Chair, did you
Okay,
have
so
some?
please, Chairman, if you're here, there's a lot of nonprofit organizations that do that, and I know there's a lot of MOUs that are being created. I mean, if we have MOU hires, I'm pretty sure we can come up with an MOU with nonprofit organizations that can help you in getting more funding to support this program, because it's a very important program. I'm sorry, did
If
you
I
wanna say-
might
Sure.
add, ma'am, and also just to clarify too, PSS is mandated to teach the language. I absolutely agree with your sentiment. There's definitely opportunity to partner with the existing nonprofit organizations, several of which I'm a part of. I think what's happening right now, though, is there is that disconnect. But again, that's something too that I think the board should definitely look at. And personally, and it's only because there have been other more urgent matters facing the board, but I do think that there is room to expand outside of just language learning
Absolutely, and I
Yeah.
totally agree.
under the system.
If you're talking about our sovereignty, yeah, I agree. And maybe one of the things that we should consider is Mango is the custodian for a lot, well, not really a custodian, but a lot of the nonprofits are registered under Mango. So all of the grants that they receive under Mango, which is tailored under ANA, apply that indirect cost and shoot it right over to the CCLHS program.
If I might add to, speaking of Mango, I do chair the board. But specific to Mango, Mango it's not necessarily a pass-through organization. Mango is there to support the development and enhancement of NGO capacities.
Okay, and that's great, but
Yes.
they still use our data when they're collecting and getting funds for federal supports, correct?
Right,
Right,
correct.
and PSS has a lot of data that can be used there in terms of that. So maybe that requires a legislation from this body that any grants under Mango and treat it like OGM be afforded a 10% indirect cost to support this program. Because if the program is such a big need, and this is a big problem for us, and it needs to be supported by financial supports, every SNILE, we got all kinds of nonprofit in here talking about language and history and studies, when really it should be, these things should funnel through the PSS.
And if I might also add, actually, Mango, we did receive a $10,000 grant from the Pacific Islands Association of NGOs, PIANGO,
Yeah.
of which we fall under. That funding was used to actually help other nonprofits come up with good proposals to present to SNILD for successful funding.
Well, then
So
I
it's
guess
really
you're
a
doing your
support
job,
of-
Chairman. And I would hope to see, I know that you apply the same effort as a chairman for public school, and the fact that you are crossing over with NGO and you sit on a government mandated board, that, you know, it's kind of, I don't know if there's a conflict of interest there, but if you could use that and leverage to help this system, then that's great, especially in terms of the relationships with the Blue Continent and your efforts to increase your capacity over there in that area.
Thank you, and I'm more than happy to have our ED, Francis Sablon, provide additional financial information to
We
further
don't need any
elaborate.
financial information. What my main concern here is, Chairman, is the fact that there's money that is around, maybe not in the tune of 42 million, but there's money that has been given out because we believe in its mission. But if you're talking about CCLHS, which is very focused to one mission, then we can support that, but it would need an internal restructure so that we can say, you got to go to PSS, right? And then we can build capacity by having NMC offer more classes that are tailored toward indigenous history teachings and language. But right now, we don't have that, therefore causing a gap in services and this need for funding, when really it should be the public school system designing that mechanism so that nonprofits work clearly with the school system in terms of CCLHS, because that's local.
Sure. But I do want to clarify, Mango is not supplanting any services that PSS is mandated to
No,
provide.
and I
nor
understand
is
that,
it,
Chairman.
Nor is it taking funds.
I understand,
So just
Chairman.
to clarify,
Yeah. Oh, I know, and in no way, shape, or form was I implying that, but you're obviously an expert in your field.
I wouldn't necessarily say that. I'm an expert in asking for funds.
There we go. So that, which brings me now to that question. We know that there are, NMC has an endowment program, or their trustees also have a mechanism that is tailored toward development and fundraising activities. As the chairman, are you trying to kind of design something like that and maybe have a development, or I don't know if you have it or now, but does your board have a endowment subcommittee that is going around asking for money to help?
Not at the moment, but the commissioner did apprise me when I first joined the board that was something that he was looking at to
Yes, sir.
embark on.
And, historically, back in 2014, I think it was, the last board did put together some documentation to proceed with it. I'm not sure what happened, but I was also provided that documentation, so we've managed to start looking into it, and we're at the very early stages. I've already started sitting down with some of our industry partners and knowing the economic conditions and their, underperformance perhaps in the business world too, and being considerate of that. But we have some other strategies that I'd like to propose to the board
And I
sooner
think
rather
that
than
would be
later.
a great way to start, Commissioner. Right now, nobody wants to not fund education. But just as that mechanism is presented with NMC, I think the public school system would also benefit from that model. So if the board can indulge this committee and maybe put that as one of its priority, especially toward, what is the top priority for that? Is it the CCLHS program? Then you can start raising funds for that, right?
Thank you. That's an excellent idea. I did want to dial back a little too on the cultural study component of your comments. And I'm happy to also share too that in some of my earlier discussions with the commissioner and highlighting the priority of education in our constitution and covenant, that's already going to start taking place while we work out the curriculum details. But certainly that's a priority for myself, and I'm sure my colleagues on the board also share that sentiment.
Okay, sure, that's great. And,
Thank you.
Again, anytime where we can be creative, that would be an awesome endeavor to at least try at this point. I guess I'd like to, but please keep me informed with that, because I'd really like to see how you guys develop that, and what model you guys are going to utilize. Ms. V, real quick, we know that the Department of Community and Cultural Affairs also receives money that are tailored towards youth programs. Do you know off the top of your head if there are any federal programs under DCCA that could assist the shortage in terms of, I guess, youth programs or teachers or FTEs that they could assist PSS in?
Good morning, everybody. So both the Department of Community and Cultural Affairs, I believe the Division of Youth Services, are also recipients of some grants from the Department of Education. And but what they oversee with, as far as like the vision of youth affairs, is different from, I believe, the Department of or the public school system. How what the program administers is two different objectives. But if they have any funds that they can, and if the program allows it, then I believe that they can leverage some of those funding. We would have to find that out tomorrow when
Okay.
we hear them.
Ms. V, if you get a chance, can you please, I mean, again, right, we're not saying we're taking money away from anybody. What we're saying is, if we can leverage off these government entities to help support public school system, that's important, right? And we just need to understand how the money works here, because we've been in this climate where everyone wants to be a custodian of money with different missions, and I get it. But at some point, we're gonna have to intertwine, and we have to leverage to help each other, because the goal is still the same, right? So if you can come up with that list, because there's many special funds categories here, other expenses. I don't even know what that is, other expenses. And then there's a program income under NAP. I don't know what that is either. Maybe I need to go back and study their grant, but it's all under other expenses. And if other expenses can be tailored to help us match this 25%, I would really appreciate that. And any information that your office could give me, and then this committee can possibly have these discussions, I would really appreciate that, Ms. V.
Will do. We'll have that information.
Okay, and I think I'm just gonna yield my time for now. I kind of spoke about different things, but I might have a reoccurring thought if the rest of my colleagues ask questions. So I yield my time, Chairman.
Thank you, Representative Marisa Flores. Let me recognize Representative Vincent Odon.
Thank you, Chairman. First, I just want to I'm trying to get this idea off of my head. What can you do with $2.4 million?
What can we do with $2.4 million in addition to what we're asking or inside what we're asking?
No,
I'm not sure.
Like if you could save $2.4 million and use it for something else. And the reason why I'm asking is because the utility and your transportation,
Mm-hmm.
was a total cost of about $2.4 million,
Right.
right? We could direct that to something else, correct?
And you're going to pay for my utility and transportation. I will direct it
I
to
would
something
love to
else.
do that.
Yep.
If possible.
And you know that utility went down to 2 million is what we're asking for. It used to be 3, but that's because we've done what we needed to do, which is install solar panels so we can save some money off of
Right.
that. But if we want to, we can save more by you gifting us with payment to that, and we'll divert that to more student learning opportunities.
And I think that could count towards the 25%.
Let me see what I can do in the business side. But, so, there's 20 schools total, CNMI wide, right?
20 schools and 10 Head Start centers, yeah.
Okay. So out of all the schools, how many are solar?
19.
Okay. Are they 100%?
At 100% powered by solar unless, there's no sunlight for them to get power off of. And whenever they're drawing power on weekends when the school's not in session, CUC takes it and sells it, I think, to the consumer and then gives us credit back for it,
Okay.
which is
so,
part of that net metering business.
Right. So what are you doing with that 2 million then? For
No,
your
we're
utility?
asking for 2 million to pay the facilities that we don't have solar panels on
Okay. So.
and water.
Right. And is that solar out of a grant, or do you guys have a contract? Is that on a lease program, or what?
It's
how's
a
that?
power purchase agreement that they install without a single dollar from us, but we buy the power that they produce.
You buy the power that they produce.
At a
Technically,
certain
it's a
rate.
lease.
Say again?
So technically, you're like leasing it.
Yeah, we told them to go ahead and install it on top of our roofs, and we'll take power from them, and they'll charge us a certain rate that's a very good rate.
At a very good rate. Okay. And because I also do know that all the buildings, right, are not utilized. All rooftop buildings are not utilized. Correct?
Right, the ones that, you mean when solar panel comes into play? Yeah, not all of them are
Right. And
installed with
are
solar
you,
panels.
are you guys aware of the OIA EIC 2025-1 grant? Are you guys applying for that?
Yeah, we've been looking into doing that, yes.
Okay, because I'm hoping that, with that kind of grant, that you guys can install more. That way you can produce more without having to pay somebody else, a lease agreement. It becomes yours. And you utilize your property to create more so that you could sell to CUC or, to do that.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we would love to produce more power so we can use power for our educational opportunities. I honestly want to not be in the business for power generation to sell to consumers. That's, I think, CUC's business, but more than likely we're in it right now with the credits that we're getting from
To
them.
sell it to CUC.
Sure.
Sell it to CUC. Because I'm pretty sure that is doable.
Yeah, which is what's happening right now, right?
Right.
The ones that we do not use over the weekend, they take and they sell it and they give us credit back for it.
Right.
But you're saying do more of that.
Right. Try to occupy your space, to be more productive and, give out so you could get more. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but a lot of the spaces that we occupy right really are under the grid because we cannot install on them, like the buildings here in Capitol Hill.
Okay, and then the other thing too is that I noticed that on your special program with your pupil transportation with the fuel, that's 400,000, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then what is this on the administration side? Is that for that same transportation to include the repair and maintenance?
Correct.
Okay. So have you guys ever tried doing a pilot project for an electric bus, the way CODA is looking forward to?
Yeah, we've been looking into that all of last year and into this fiscal year. And we've been applying. And my position on that is we will continue to, as you mentioned, pilot. We're not going to phase out the entire fleet all at once because we need to make sure and we're assured that CUC can provide us the power for the batteries that we will need to charge those buses, because the moment they will not have that power for us and we can't charge our buses, we can't transport our students. So we'll phase it in as we see that opportunity come to play.
Right, and that's where I'm trying to see to integrate this extra panels to come in, utilizing all your other vacant, rooftops to generate that power and to, charge up your buses so that you could cut your cost on fuel and, and me understanding how, electric vehicles work, that also pretty much can practically kill most of your maintenance, and repair costs. So that's
Yeah,
just
we
a
could-
thought to try to.
Yeah, I would love to further have this conversation with you and pick your brain on it and see what we can do to
Absolutely.
reduce cost.
If I may, sir, going back to EIC, I'm not sure if there's a cap, but I know that the OIA program, similar to TAP and MAP, I know that OGM is sort of the main applicant on those funds. So yeah, I think it's an amazing
Right,
grant
because-
opportunity,
right,
energizing insular communities.
Right, because it says that, either OGM or, what is this, where is that? Eligible applicants, higher education. So it wouldn't hurt.
Right. I think we just need to clarify, though, whether there's just a specific set pot of funds, and then we'll end up competing with OGM, or, if it's a nationwide pot that, it won't impact other recipients locally if we do try. And then I think the other point I wanted to make to your point about EV, I'm not sure what it looks like in terms of maintenance costs of those types of vehicles, but something to consider.
No, this is what I do know. The less moving parts, the less it breaks, And then I also do know that you're not going to have like your monthly or, every mileage to change out your oil or your filter, your all kinds of other maintenance that goes into it. So I know you could save a lot of money doing that. So I'm just saying what I do know on the effects and the amount of savings that you can have.
Right, right.
Because I mean, like I would use myself as an example. I used to pay, anywhere between $300 to $1,600 a month on my utility bill. Now I pay $1. There's a lot of things I could do with that $300 to $600 a month. You know what I mean? And do I
Absolutely.
feel bad? No, I don't. And I'm pretty sure that, you guys could use that same kind of savings and whatnot.
And if I can also add, maybe something we should consider is what Guam's doing, and that is their public works actually oversees pupil transportation. So
Right.
who knows if that could be
That used to be-
cost savings or
Right, that
or
used to
whatnot.
be DPW's, part of their assignment was to take care of all government assets to include schools. That's what happened way back then. I don't know what happened now, but, that's all I got. Yeah, thank you.
I'm all up for reducing costs when it comes to that, just not to have them dictate our bell schedule, because the beauty of us running our bus system is that we actually control the bell schedule based on their scheduling for delivery of our students. So, but yeah, cost savings for sure.
Do you, Representative Odon? Thank you, Representative Odon. Any other members for the first round? Let me recognize Representative Ralph Yumo.
Thank you, Chairman. And Commissioner, I did, if you can go back to the scenarios, I didn't notice the scenarios. Yeah. So with regards to possible cuts, my concern is basically the teacher support and the classroom size. So, is there been any discussion with regards to, I guess, informing the teachers of, what happens during the I guess, the different scenarios?
No discussions yet. I really wanted to kind of get the feel for this hearing to see where we could go from and then be able to communicate to our teachers. But I did not want to cause panic and, start making people pack up. And we just wanted to see if this body can support us and give us what we're asking for, at least up to the point where we're able to survive. I've mentioned so many cost-saving opportunities that we've already looked into and started implementing. We're doing our part. I asked the body to do its part to allow us the opportunity to continue mission as we provide the quality education to our students. But if we have to go that route, there's certainly going to be some good strategic communication to our constituents or our employees.
With regards to if it should, and thank you for that, is PSS currently seeking alternative fundings right now, knowing the fact that our situation is, I guess, dire? I do know that the current administration, the Trump administration, is pushing more towards non-degree credentials for students, especially in the high school level, where they are trained before leaving the school, so they can get hired immediately. And I'm not sure if funding is available or the administration is, the Trump administration is going to be providing federal grants to kind of shift the focus now in preparing our students for
Right.
work.
Sir, the interesting thing is that this administration you speak of talks about workforce development and seeing where that opportunity comes in. And I've not yet seen directly to us what that could mean. But what we've been doing is we've been working for several years now on this college and career readiness pathway so that our high schools are designed to where students, when they come in, they are led through that pathway and have a very nice career afterwards or straight into college and are prepared for that. But we are certainly using the consolidated grant. The interesting thing is, in the consolidated grant, one of the things that was crashed out from this administration was on the college and career readiness piece. But we're still able to kind of continue on with our initiative on that because it's a consolidated grant. We're scraping off some other areas and reprogramming to that because we know how important that is for the students.
So there's no grants currently for the, I guess, career development.
Thank you, Congressman Yumol. Just this morning, the Trump administration did share that they're wanting to move Carl T. Perkins under the Department of Labor, right, and remove it out of the Department of Education. So that would mean the Department of Labor would manage career technical education with oversight from the Department of Education. Under the consolidated grant, we do fund all our career tech education programs, all our cooperative education programs. And what the Trump administration is doing right now is they're putting a hold on some of these federal programs and trying to realign funding and future grants to what the Trump administration is, what his priorities are. And his priorities right now is career tech and bringing education back to the states by gutting the Department of Ed.
Right.
So to your point, there will still be support for CTE, but how that would look like in the future it's going to be very interesting.
Right.
Seeing how he's trying to reorg all these federal programs.
Yes. And the reason why I asked, because I attended a strategic for Congress in Wisconsin last couple of weeks ago, and the gear is to switch from college readiness into careers. And so we're discussing legislation with other jurisdictions in the U.S. and most states right now are funding. They're going to fund that part, especially getting our students up and ready for work as soon as they graduate. And as you know, that not everyone is, I guess, geared to go to college. Majority of the students will end up staying, and so that the Trump administration would like them to be ready for the workforce. So that would take a lot of, I guess, in the next year. I'm assuming next year. I know some states already are implementing that program, so we're looking at that here now in the CNMI, is how to get some of those grants so that we can, I guess, re-engineer and get the public school system to include, I guess, career readiness.
Yes, sir. I would love to work with you on that. Some states, as you mentioned, and I know of commissions within states that their sole purpose in life is to make sure that the schools are producing those micro-credentials and those certifications for the need of that economy within that state. And when the schools, on top of their locally appropriated funding, produce those certifications, they get additional funding because
Right.
it's an incentive for them to concentrate in those areas that is needed by the economy. So
Right.
we'd love to work with you
Yes,
on that.
we're just trying to think outside the box here because we can't rely a lot on the local part, no, so we will look on that. I'm still looking on that. We're trying to draft the legislation so that we can implement that here in the CNMI. I guess the last part of my question is basically on, I guess, teachers' mental health, because for the last, I don't know, 15 years, I think I'm a counselor too at home because my wife is a teacher. So, is there, I guess, an area where, I guess, teachers can vet out their frustrations? Because I'm sure most of us that are husbands or wives of teachers, we become the psychiatrists at home. So, I just wanted to air that out.
Thank you for that question and for pointing that out. That is very, I've been focused on students, and I say educators always, so we're focusing on educators as well. But yeah, definitely I'll look into that. They can certainly come to my office for all that to start with.
Okay, so there's no program ready for teachers to
I
vet?
will put priority on that and work with the
Because
principals.
with the different scenarios, and I guess the instructional days are reducing, be more pressure on teachers to produce with
Right.
regards to
The
teaching.
the chair and I had a meeting with community health organization out there, that is we're going to be working with and collaborating with to not just serve our students further more than what we currently have, but also to serve the staff and faculty of our school. So there's going to be some opportunities for that.
And thank you, Chairman or Vice.
Thank you, Rep. Yumo. Any other member for the first round? None? All right, I recognize Rep. Marissa Flores for the second round. But, Flor, the Commissioner, you guys okay? Do you want to take a restroom break before we, Oh, yeah, yes, before second round. I know we're getting closer to the 12 o'clock mark that we try to get you guys out for lunch, but we'll do a 3-minute recess. Thank you.
Good afternoon again. Good morning, members. We are back from our short recess, and before we had that short recess, we are still in dialogue with questions and answers. And at this time, if there's no first round from the members with their questions, we'll enter into a second round. And of course, be mindful that we're trying to wrap up by the 12 o'clock mark. So we still got a couple of minutes. So are there any members for the first round? If there is none, let me recognize Representative Marisa Flores for the second round.
Thank you, Chairman, and yes, I'll make sure I'm looking at the clock. Thank you. In the budget, there's three things, but let's first talk about this local funds. I noticed that in the budget on the local matching, there's an attorney there that requires 50% local. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Is this attorney on island?
No.
So the system is asking us to support a fund 50% for an attorney who's providing legal assistance or legal representation who's not even present in the Commonwealth. Is that correct?
Yes, services are provided
Okay.
despite the fact they're not in the
All right.
Commonwealth.
Mr. Chairman, if you could please take note, and Vice Chair, that since we were talking about this committee is now aimed at trying to be creative with budgetary ask and looking at the constraints, I would please ask this committee to please include in the language that no attorney should be paid off local funds. Thank you.
Duly noted.
Thank you, Chair. And then let's go back to this CCLHS. Oh, actually, and furthermore, let me just finish that thought real quick. Has there been any lawsuits against the public school system for past 2 years?
There have been. We have one right now being
Okay, it's still active
heard,
case?
yes.
Okay, I'm assuming that if anything required monetary compensation or judgments awarded to the individual, what funding source do you use?
Right now, the ones that I'm talking about being implemented, the one that we had a lawsuit on, there was no money to settle with, so
Okay.
we didn't use any.
All right, so in the event and to kind of protect us for the future, I would ask this committee that any lawsuits that are tied to the public school system for any type of monetary compensation, that no local funds be used. Thank you, Chairman. No, not yet. I'm not ready yet. I was addressing that to you, sir.
Duly noted.
Thank you. So let's move forward.
If we want to clarify, looking at our SPED director, and with SPED, you're going to have to use local funding for
Okay.
any lawsuit.
That's only for SPED. Okay, because history and some time ago would tell us that there were several cases against the system. And so I just want to make that very clear that any future cases that are outside of SPED, I'm sure there's a mechanism there to address that. But outside of that, that no local funds be used to pay for any lawsuits, especially if it's against a personnel, for whatever lawsuits that may come about. So let's go forward to this CCLHS. Now, MPLT also has a constitutional mandate. Now, the public purpose can be used to benefit NMDs. So when you're talking about the CCLHS program, and maybe, I don't know, maybe this might require an attorney to interpret. But part of that, some of their funds can be used for education, training, or cultural programs. Have you considered getting with MPLT to discuss maybe if it is even within the Constitution purview, and if it's even legal, to see how this program can be funded through the Marianas Public Land Trust.
If I may, Madam Congresswoman, I had an initial conversation, and I believe we were all at the same event with the MPLT chairman, where I kind of bounced the idea off of him regarding looking at, instead of strictly investing in the stock market and these other types of investments that they're currently engaged in, if we could also look at investing in our people, meaning, because I was briefing him about that group from Kamehameha schools, and so some type of a program that would be specifically serving our NMD students, and he said it's possible.
Yes.
So yes, absolutely. I think that would be a really, really great way of supporting.
And of course, that would require a legislative introduction to bills, and it's up to this committee to decide if it's a yes or no passage, correct?
I'm not sure,
I
but I
think-
would defer to you, and
Okay.
I'd love to move in that direction.
And I think that would be the route. It would have to require some legislation to move that. But because it's very, very specific, public purpose, benefiting NMDs, distribution of interest earnings, not principal, education, training, or cultural programs. And I'm sure there's many attorneys that can have interpretations, and maybe we can set up that meeting, Chairman, and really take this discussion a little bit further, because if it's never been questioned, then it's never been asked. So now that we've asked and posed the question, we can take it to MPLT.
Thank you so much. That's a
Okay.
fantastic idea.
Now, my last question, Chairman. The public school system has been in the newspaper for quite some time in its efforts under the State Longitude Data System, CLDS. And they're the, division that is leading the P20W Data Governance Program, which is a cross-agency data sharing initiative to create data-driven decisions affecting education to workforce. Can you give me a little bit more about that? And is this federally funded?
It is federally funded. And it started off with, prior to that, we had a grant for about 5 years to build the infrastructure to collect data in the longitudinal journey of our students and watching that data. We've graduated from that to this new phase of the grant. We've been granted now for another 5 years to then go beyond K through 12 into the P20, so we're calling it P20. And that would follow the life of that student longitudinally all the way through career.
Okay. And so when is this grant expected to expire?
I think we're on year 2. Year 2, so we got 3 more, yeah.
Okay. And is there, how does this program sustain itself? Would it be able to sustain itself without the grant?
Yeah, so that's another, I'm on the committee at the
Okay.
executive level for that grant. And from my previous experience at another SLDS initiative, there was a sustainability initiative within the grant that we would have to begin now to be able to sustain it beyond, because it's not a forever grant.
Okay.
By federal. But just to let you know, ma'am, to do that, we've already partnered at the executive level with Department of Commerce, Labor, the other higher education institutions, so that they're part of this, because it's P20, right? And so we're going to work on a sustainability plan by first coming to the legislature and offering the value of this program or this particular initiative and this infrastructure, so that when you buy in and you use the data to make policy decisions, lawmaking decisions, I think it'll convince this body to be able to find a way to sustain it as well.
And I feel the same way because I'm having the same issue when I'm trying to draft legislation and I'm looking at trying to find case studies pertinent to the Commonwealth. And I'm now figuring out that NMC is the custodian for a lot of these studies through the CDI development program. But I see the connection with the CLDS, and I see how working with the Department of Labor, Commerce, Secretary of Finance. I don't know who else you have on your executive team that are sitting in this task force. However, I do believe that, again, with this grant, we can leverage off with Department of Labor, Secretary of Finance in terms of technology, we can, or OIT, what they have, who else? Commerce, most especially Commerce, NMC, all of these areas. So please take a look and take kind of have a conversation with your team in regard to that, because I see the benefit of this program moving forward when you're talking about data collection, which is one of the things that CNMI has done a horrible job in. It's either non-existent or we never started. But at this point, there is some progression in the job and the function of this division. And then maybe we can figure out, because you're paying about, what, 700 and how much are you paying for your debt service or your contract to Munis?
300 plus.
Oh, that's wonderful. And maybe we can figure out from the Secretary of Finance how maybe you could just credit the 300,000 and develop the data that she actually needs to also, just like us, come up with a plan that is tailored towards investment, revenue generating data, sustainability planning, what have you. But you might want to have that conversation, because if you're paying 300,000 for the system, but your department, SLDS, is now creating and developing data collection programming that might benefit Secretary of Finance, Department of Labor, NMC, the legislature, executive branch. That would be a good way to start having those conversations and really put in those MOUs, because the MOUs will tell you exactly what is needed and how much. You can actually even put money figures in there, sir, and start leveraging off a lot of the government entities that receive federal funding that are aimed to actually do what this division is aimed to do.
You're right. Data sharing agreement is already are in place with all those agencies you just listed out of this particular grant.
Wonderful. And so I'd like to see this continue to progress. And then last one, the grants with the matching. When you guys apply for grants outside of SPET, because this is a reoccurring, right? This kind of, it's every year. The director and her team would apply. But for all the other grants that are kind of have a mission objective, a specific objective, and you're applying for the grant and assuming that the grant is 50 million, but the matching is 50 million, does the system consider the impact of trying to find 50 million when we're talking about matching?
Roger, yes, but go ahead and get more specific on it.
Any grant that has a matching would have to go to the board for review and approval. And in the last couple of years, we've tried our very best to ask for a waiver for some of these competitive grants, and we've gotten them.
Okay.
I think at this point, any grant that requires a local match beyond, let's say Head Start and SPED, AmeriCorps, will probably have to be scaled back or not even pursued at this time.
Okay, and so you guys got mechanisms already, because the board would approve if such grants are actually, number one, feasible, right? And actually can be matched in that area. And I think that's important to address, Chairman, since you and the Commissioner would be the one to approve this. Really, really take a look at that, because when you're applying for grants and the matching is 50 million and our economic situation is not even revenue generating of 50 million in a quarter, that tells you something. It's very telling. But on a second note, the waivers, if we can continue the relationship and dialogue with Delegate Kim Hines and really look at that, because in the covenant we're actually supported for grant applications. But the problem is we've never taken that conversation further, and we're at a disadvantage when you're talking about grants that are aimed toward population base, percentage base, we can't. We cannot compete for those because we'll be denied outright because we are at a disadvantage. So that kind of conversation, I think if we take it a little bit further and include Delegate Hines in that so that she can start addressing those and absolutely 100% remove us from that, that'll be great. Because right now, considering what we're giving up, I don't even think we should be paying a matching, period.
Thank you,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
noted.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you want to say anything, Commissioner?
No, I totally agree. And we'll proceed with
Yes, and
more
please
collaboration.
Please keep this body informed of that dialogue. I think it's important to have, and my office will also extend to her the need for this advocacy and ask at the federal level. Thank you, Chairman. I yield my time.
Thank you, Representative Marisa Flores. So we are already a bit just past the 12 o'clock mark. The chair will now just ask two questions. Commissioner, just looking at your breakdown on the on your budget requests under the CIP category where you have listed there $500,000, 500,000. And then going to your page 59 under your capital improvement projects, there's two priorities here, and both priorities have their different total amount. Priority 1 is at 3.2 and priority 2 is at 3.5. So there's a huge variance here. With the 500 that you are going, itemizing to use on the local funds, the difference, where are you getting these resources to fulfill your capital improvement projects?
This is where we risk deferred maintenance. We made the deliberate decision to go ahead and include just $500,000 for the CIP for the emergency purposes of these priorities that you see here listed are going to continue to remain priorities. We just know we're not going to be able to ask for all of it to be completed. We also, and I say that because we also are benefiting off of a lot of the construction that's ongoing right now with FEMA projects. You just need to kind of focus in on that, get that thing out of the way. These priorities, again, are deferred for now, as long as we have at least $500,000 to help us throughout the school year for emergency. I'll look into the savings that we have with our solar panel and all that to kind of start targeting some of these priorities, but it is what it is. We have it listed, so you have an idea of what they are, and they are continuing to be priority. We just know that we're not going to get the funds for it, so we only ask for what we think we could for emergency purposes.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. And my last question, I guess, is to Madam Secretary of Finance, that are we up to par or on time with our quarterly remittance of PSS funds to the system? Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to address this body as well as our chairman of the board and the Commissioner of Education. And I'm glad that you asked that question because there was a statement made recently in the media from a board member Orsini that the cash transfers are delayed. But in fact, we are on time, and we transferred the first payment for the month of July in the amount of 1.2 million recently, and we are on target to remit the rest of the payment for July. So again, we are timely. Mr. Chairman, please expect a letter from my office detailing the payments that have been made to PSS. And this just reflects the commitment of this administration to prioritize cash transfers to PSS. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification, Madam Secretary. So that wraps up our question and answers. And so at this time, we move further down on, but before we move further down on our order of business, at this time, the chair wants to extend on behalf of the committee of the Standing Committee of Ways and Means to you, Commissioner Camacho and Chairman CODEP, for coming before this body. And answering our questions. We duly appreciate it. And we understand and we see your concerns and the many challenges that our public school systems are facing currently and will be facing in this upcoming fiscal year. So with that, I will give you back the floor, both of you, if you have any closing remarks before we adjourn this public budget hearing.
I'll say thank you for the opportunity again, as I alluded to earlier. It is a great feeling to know that we could come to this chamber and collaborate and answer questions, even outside of this chamber, on the office visits that we have amongst ourselves is going to be very valuable and important as we all strive towards making sure that we continue to prioritize education, support our students, and invest in them because they are going to be the next leaders. They are going to be the next solvers of our problems here in the CNMI and will design the future. And so just know that that is what we're committed for. The team here I also thank for making sure that we continue to look in that and they advise in a proper fashion where we should be going when it comes to this. And I appreciate the board's support in all of this. So with that, I defer my one Chamorro and Carolinian minute to the chair.
Very well put, Commissioner. I don't have much else to add except thank you for your time and consideration, as well as a lot of the ideas that were presented to us to also explore in ways that we could find to offset some of the expected shortfalls. But thank you so much.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your statements. And so let's move along in our order of business, and that is item 6, announcement. And at this time, the chair wants to announce to the viewing public that tomorrow the committee has the Department of Community and Cultural Affairs at 9:30 for a budget hearing. And of course, our last budget hearing will be with the Marianas Visitors Authority on next week, Monday, July 21st. And so with that, that brings us to our last order of business, which is item 7, adjournment. And at this time, the chair adjourns this budget hearing. We are now adjourned.